Good evening, everyone. Thank you, John, for this very kind introduction. And I have to say that this is an honor for me to be here tonight in a building I have known earlier and enjoying to be able to come again. John already mentioned that I'm a member of the Discovery Program board, and I guess the reason why I was invited to become a board member is that I am an external person. I have a different look. And on top, at the beginning of September, I gave some of you a talk about the German Archaeological Institute's AIDS campaigns within the Boyne to Brodgar program. So putting together all these factors, I said, okay, once I'm an external person, I will introduce you to something that is really, really different from the Northwest European perspective, as I have seen the earlier speakers, most of the earlier speakers spoke about. So I'm going to invite you to a trip to the let's put it like this, southern part of Central Europe. And I don't know whether, can you see my mouse? No, okay, no matter. If you can see this line, this is a well-known map of the spread of agriculture. I'm not going into the details, just have a look at this. This is a marginal zone going to the north and no further. We will discuss why. And in the meantime, it becomes a core area to something which, as we call the linear Bandkeramik or the LBK people, rapidly spread from the Paris Basin to Ukraine and actually defined the coming 2 millennia of European or Central Western European prehistory. This is the region where it was born. I'm going to briefly speak about a few points. First of all, I'm going to give you a summary of the background about the excavations with a particular light that this is the site I'm going to speak about is not only special because it lasted for 1,400 years, as you can see, in its absolute dating, but also concerning the circumstances, how it was excavated, and also the aftermath of its history. The word network is in red, which becomes significant later on. Then I will give you a brief summary about the number of projects emerged from this very excavation and the post-excavation works. Then the number of publications and whatever is planned, and about the outcome in the end. And here you can see the network in red again, because I would like to make a kind of bridge in between the 6th and 5th millennium network that made this direction and the spread of agriculture, and also the centuries, actually also the millennia afterwards, so significant, and the 21st century network of every kind of methodology we implied with a great synergy. And so it makes this site, Alsónyék in southern Hungary, quite interesting. The site is in the southern part of the Carpathian Basin, in a marginal zone of the alluvial Danube plain and the hilly, more Atlantic region of Western Hungary, Transdanubia. Very interestingly, it looks like you can see the culture. I won't bother you with all the names of the cultures, but you can see in the different colors that it's always at a marginal zone, always at a place in the 6th millennium, and also in the 5th millennium at a zone where something ends on behalf of the Southeast European cultural orbit, and something starts in terms of a central European orbit. This special area has been researched even before the excavation of the site of Alsónyék, but actually what makes it very special that here we could really join our forces, so to say, and we combined results of beginning with landscape archaeology to the post-excavation methods up to very specific programs and projects in the aftermath. A few words about how it started. We knew about Transdanubia and its significance. It was not that interesting in the Carpathian Basin earlier, so there was much to discover. First, I started my career in some rescue excavations at the Lake Balaton. You can see the rescue excavations marked in red and the research projects marked in black. So we continued then with two research projects up to the Slovenian-Austrian border. And then I thought that what is even more interesting is to go to the Danube, to go to the gate where everything started. So Foix is a site and a vicinity. We did some projects. That was the time when the M6 motorway leading from Budapest to Pécs and further down to Croatia was starting to be planned. And before doing so, of course, the whole tract needed to be researched. And since we were in the vicinity, we had a good view. Nevertheless, we also participated in the excavation. So it started. But in the aftermath, as you can see, the red marks are all rescue excavations, mainly motorway excavations. And so building upon our results, it gave us the possibility to extend the perspectives for a very thorough and precise micro chronology of the later 6th millennium BC and earlier 5th millennium BC. This is what we call the Middle Neolithic and the start of the Late Neolithic. I know that is very alien to you. We are way before that, but this is the nature of the spread of farming. A few words about Foix. Foix is in the Sárköz. The Sárköz is meaning muddy land. You might, it might chime together with the one-time prime minister in France called Sarkozy, who was Hungarian, but as far as I know, he was not from this region. Anyway, this is an alluvial land meeting the mountains. A marginal land, a very interesting and important part where we started a research project, and then came this rescue excavation, this preventive archaeology at Alsónyék. As you can see, the track, plus on the eastern side an engineering area which also needed to be excavated. It was bolstered or researched first with a Hungarian research fund project under my name, and then a basic archaeogenetic German research fund project came in the picture, followed by an ERC advanced grant, The Times of Their Lives. Some of them you definitely might have heard about it, led by Alice de Whittle and Alex Baylis. And the lucky constellation that I left Hungary for becoming a director in the German Archaeological Institute, that went together with a comfortably off personal budget, which I turned to the evaluation of Alsónyék, also helped. So everything came together to alter the very unlucky start of this excavation. Well, we were already at the region. You might recognize some of the geophysical magnetograms. already done by Knut Rassmann, my later German colleagues, but he did that earlier that I would have left for Germany because we knew each other from our student times, and I invited him. So that was a very nice start to know about this liminal zone. Here something ended that was working in Southeast Europe, and something new had to be started, some crisis situation that needed to go together with some innovative, creative solutions. And this is the track of the Alsónyék excavation. Typically, it was addressed to 4 different companies. One of it was our institute, luckily, so we could also be involved. And the reason behind was that nobody had any idea of the fact that these different sites may belong together. It was simply too big to imagine that. So there was one company in the northern part, one for the eastern, one for the southern part, and a couple of 100 meters eastwards there was yet another track that needed to be excavated for the force. A terrible situation in terms of the various documentary habits and so on and so on. So it looked like a failure from the very beginning of the excavation. Not the less because of the fact that the most finds came from our late Neolithic, which is the first half of the 5th millennium BC, and in the vicinity of that red daub we had the largest ever known coeval settlements. So nobody would have guessed that after the eponymous settlement called Lengyel and some other big well-excavated settlements, anything important can occur just a few kilometers onwards from this area. That meant that nobody cared, actually. They sent there someone to collect a few sherds. That was the plan, and then it was enough. As you can see on the script, the situation turned out to be quite different. The excavation lasted for a couple of years. You can see the extension of the excavated area, and to complete the excavations, we did geophysical prospections and drillings and aerial archaeology to have a picture. So taken all together, we speak about a settlement and graves with a maximum extension of 80 hectares, which makes it uncompared to other coeval sites, except for the considerably later East European Tripolia culture, which has megasites, but this can with right be called also megasites. About the scattered sherds in the vicinity of well-known Lengyel sites, I can say that we have more than 9,000 features from this late Neolithic period, whereas more than 120 robust houses were excavated, and more to be detected or were detected during the prospections. And the number of the graves is especially interesting because in that area, the largest cemetery or grave groups consisted about 280 or maybe a little bit more, but less than 300 graves. And here you have 2,000, almost 4,400 graves, which was unparalleled. So nobody had any idea what to do with such an amount. Just to give you a picture about the first farmers, which is called Starčevo culture. This is a site in Serbia they are named of. You can see the amount of features, the burnt daub, the animal bones, the garbage pits covered with material. Also the ovens, scattered among the houses. Perhaps even more interestingly, some of the ovens were dug into the sides of garbage pits, of refuse pits. So what you see here is the positive form they never saw, because they just dug a hole inside the wall of the refuse pit and started to burn, which then became heavily burned, and this is what you see here. They were subterranean ovens. And even more interestingly, among the high number of early farmers' skeletons from the first half of the 6th millennium BC, several skeletons were found kind of squeezed inside of these ovens. No trace speaks for them being alive when being treated like that, so they were definitely dead. But it's still, that habit is still interesting, that they were simply hidden in a subterranean oven for resting. I was telling a few words about the couple of 100 meters eastwards track, which revealed a site, a settlement with graves from the end of the 6th millennium and the very beginning of the 5th millennium. And they looked like aliens to the preceding Starčevo people, and also to the general picture of the Balkan, Northern Balkan, Southeast European anthropological features of people. Why I'm saying like this, just have a look at this picture. This man was resting on cattle ribs, so probably a portion of a cattle. And perhaps even more interestingly, contrasted to the normal crouched position on one side, normally males on the right side and females on the left side, these skeletons lay on their back. And if that is not enough, they were huge and robust people, some of them over 180 centimeters. Aliens, I said. They were coming in from the mountains, from the Northern Balkan mountains, and according to their genetic ancestry, you can see here that the U haplogroup, so typical for the mitochondrial ancestry of Western hunter-gatherers, was quite high among them. I don't know whether you can see that all the skeletons lying on the back were of this hunter-gatherer ancestry, whilst the yellow ones and the blue ones, the Anatolian farming people, were found in a crouched position and on their sides. So they were migrants, if you want to put it like that. A few words about the houses, the Lengyel culture houses. They begin, as you can see, at the start of the 5th millennium and go onwards for 400 years, some of them even later. You can see the renewed positions of some of the houses. You can see the size of it. You can see in some cases they had porches. And interestingly, these 120 robust houses had a clear continuation outside of the excavated area. So that means it was a very heavily populated settlement. I'm just saying that because some colleagues want to put Alsónyék like an aggregation for death. That's Pisarka and John Chapman, of course, if somebody wants to know it, which is an interesting idea, but we should also bear in mind that a lot of people also lived here, as testified by these robust houses. About this extremely high number of the Lengyel, so the early 5th millennium BC graves. They are found in grave groups, very many of them. There are smaller and larger ones. The normal position is an oval grave pit with a crouched position skeleton in that, left or right. But there is one specific type of burials which is actually, I'm not saying that is unique because we have one parallel in southeastern Hungary without any context. Before Alsónyék, nobody understood what it should mean. But it looks like these burials had a kind of burial hut among them because of these 4 very robust big post holes. It is very difficult to think of any other kind of construction, just a kind of bed or things like that. So it looks like they must have been constructions. Don't let yourself cheated by some of the finds found in these holes, because it is a secondary taphonomic phenomenon when the wood was just disappearing. Some of the grave goods were just slipping in these holes. These graves, these grave hut people, were also mostly the richest graves among the Alsónyék site. As you can see here, dentalium purse, some spondylus purse, and in the later graves also some copper beads are to be found, which each of them hints to another direction. Of course, dentalium and spondylus to the Aegean. The raw material of the copper beads comes from the northeast, from the eastern Carpathian, and so on and so on. So, very interestingly, the row can be continued with some other kinds of finds. Here you have a very long obsidian knife, and perhaps from the Western point of view, the most interesting thing is the jadeite, of course. I put the well-known map of Europe of the first half of the 5th millennium or mid-5th millennium here to show that all the green stuff is where jadeite tools were found, all coming from the northwestern Alps. And the other half of Europe was very rich in copper and gold. What we see is there is one route leading to Varna with some jadeites, and another interesting thing is that in the middle of the copper and gold-rich area, we find Alsónyék with quite a lot of such jadeites. So who can explain that? That was an extended network. It was a difficult start of the post-excavation work, not just because of the immense amount of finds. We can speak definitely more than about 500,000 of finds, accordingly as many features. So yeah, exactly, our reaction was about that. But even worse, after my first four years research grant, I was not able to get any more support. So it looked like Alsónyék will end up with a fate that very often meets rescue excavation results to sink of nowhere in a magazine until the finds are no more traceable and no more suitable for any further research. So what to do in such a situation? I went to Germany. Not particularly because of this, but I would lie if I didn't want to disclose that this failure, this frustration also took part in my decision. And luckily, I met my old colleagues there who had been working, and we could concentrate with the full capacity of our competence center in the Romano-Germanic Commission in Frankfurt to the Sárköz area and particularly to the Alsónyék. Steve, close your eyes, please, because you know everything by heart. These are the plethora of methods of non-invasive kind of working. This is what we did practically everywhere in the Sárköz area, also in other regions, but now I'm concentrating on the Sárköz. The surface collections were our task. The drillings and the susceptibility measurements were also joint German-Hungarian ones. This already counts to the minimal invasive methods, and in our case, the excavation already happened. So we didn't do any new excavation, it was just completing our results, but that was an immense help to know where to start at all. And there were two new projects which were actually first tried in the Sárköz area. First of all, Knut knew someone in the German Aerospace Center who was mad about archaeology, and it was easy to convince him to come to Frankfurt for a workshop. And we asked him that when he controls the satellites to go around the Earth, he should concentrate on well-known sites we instruct him to, so that we have 50 and 80 and 120 snapshots of the same site to be compared with our magnetometric results. And that was also an extra help, a pilot project that yielded very good results. The second one is still, well, actually it is now, it goes viral if it's not about bacteria, but it is about bacteria, so I can't say that they go viral. Drilling materials are not only suitable for geochemical analysis, but recently, with the help of the Max Planck Institute and also now with the Max Planck Harvard Institute, where I'm an advisory board member, and it is now more and more introduced, we look for, mainly from coprolites, but not only, molecular traces which are typical for species, so we can distinguish bacteria from humans, bacteria from domestic animals, wild animals, and so on and so on. And also we can detect some pathogens that are also typical for one species. From all this, we can get a picture without an excavation about some health status or the intensity of the habitation. As said, these are still pilot projects, but the first results are very promising. And now about the 5-year support program that I initiated from my own budget. First of all, this picture doesn't reflect the amount of pottery we had to get through, but if I say that they were close to 500,000 only potsherds, and some couple of thousand other clay finds, then you have a picture of the amount of work. We did more than 1,000 photos and graphic images. I hired a graphic artist who did nothing else than draw vessels for two years of all times. And of course, we couldn't render each and every potsherds to a type of chronological order, but the most diagnostic pieces, which are numbered almost 30,000, could be done so, and also the rest were rendered to a kind of lower category. So just to give you a vision about the pottery work. One PhD dissertation concentrated on the osteology of the late Neolithic, so the Lengyel population. Kitty Köhler did her best and finished her PhD, but it was a too big task to do each and every skeleton, so she concentrated herself on the northern section, which nevertheless consisted almost 800 skeletons. And therefore, she had the energy of doing the paleopathology, the degenerative illnesses, and also some epidemic illnesses for which we are going to see an example a few minutes later. So that was the situation on the first years when I started in Germany in 13-14, and then some follow-up projects came. of which the first one was a major German DNA project. A major is because we sampled 700 skeletons. That means that that time we did, of course, we started with mitochondrial investigations. That means that only the female ancestry could be tracked, because earlier, well, at the 2011, 12, 13, 14, there was no other way. Later on, we checked it with autosomal investigations, and luckily we got with the same and very similar results. So there was no problem. Practically, we sampled each and every skeleton with a good collagen, and with the Alsónyék 30 starchable skeletons, I can say that this is the largest whatsoever collection of first farming skeletons of the region, and so it goes on to the 2,400 Lengyel skeletons, where we picked up the good collagen works. The first and prime result of this investigation was a kind of statement that the thought that the first farmers are migrants, and they didn't introduce agriculture by adoption but by migration, was underpinned quite firmly with first mitochondrial genetic investigations, and then it was then confirmed by the Harvard Medical Lab's investigation with autosomal results. What does this all mean? If we have a look at the, I have to say, very scattered Mesolithic skeletal remains, they have a picture of a genetic profile which, however, differs profoundly from the first farming profiles. You can see that. Nevertheless, with the income of the Sopot people, I showed you this robust couple of people coming from the south with new haplogroups, and the Vinca people of the same origin from the northern Balkans. By the end of the Neolithic, at some points we reached 20%, but on the average we are over 10% of hunter-gatherer ancestries among the Neolithic settlements within the Carpathian Basin. What does this mean? First, they contacted each other quite cautiously. They exchanged. We have the proof for that. I'm going to show you in a minute. And then after 3-4 generations, they started to mate. Not before that. Who knows why? Maybe they were hidden. Maybe there was a kind of taboo. We can do the guesswork, but these are facts. And the more northerly regions we investigate, the more intensive this hunter-gatherer input in the ancestry becomes. The other big project was the ERC Advanced Grant, The Times of Their Lives, which started with a very simple sentence. Alasdair Whittle, with whom I had been working for years before, asked me whether I wanted 300 C14 dates for free for Alsónyék. I said, yes, please. But then I had no idea with what kind of tremendous work it goes together with articulated animal bones for cross-checking it, the context, the taphonomy, the TPQ, the terminus postquem definition, and so on and so on. In the middle picture, you can see an 8-meter long typochronological chart which was done by one of my colleagues, and before this project, everybody just smiled about him that, okay, this is a nice toy he's playing with. And suddenly, as a cross-checking method, these typochronological charts became very meaningful for the Bayesian modeling of C14 dates. Here are some outcomes. And just a few examples of the meticulous work, especially for the zooarchaeologists. It was an immense work because in a garbage pit it is very, very difficult to find articulated bones. And to hinder any kind of coincidences or differences in dating, we needed these articulating bones. So everyone cursed me, Alasdair, especially Alex Bayliss, but I think the work was worth to be done. For instance, for the first farming people, for the Starchevo people, first we just sampled the Alsónyék site, and then we wanted to know about, okay, then how about the neighbors and their neighbors and their neighbors. In the end of this ERC project, instead of the planned 10% for Hungary, for Alsónyék and the vicinity, we ended up with almost 50% of the whole ERC round, just concentrating on this area. It proved to be fascinating. And now we come to something which baffled us, which we were just totally astonished, and we could not interpret that, and this is that chart. What you see here, the 70,000 potsherds and 400 features of the first farmers are just this very small yellow spot. Then there is a small gap because the blue ones, the LBK people who were born a little bit northwards, took a couple of generations until they occupied this region. The yellow one or the orange one are these robust people, the Sopot people who migrated. And then you can see something very special at the beginning of the 5th millennium. Precisely at 4,730, something happens, an aggregation, very, very suddenly, and it looks like 50 times as many people started to live at that part of the settlement suddenly. With the typochronological order of the pottery, we would have thought that this part of the settlement lasts for 300 years. And with the Bayesian modeling, we could figure out that this was no more than practically 2 generations, or maybe 3. As you can see, that the decline is somewhat slower than the very sudden aggregation, but of course, both phenomena needed an explanation. Just to model this, the eastern part of the settlement would be okay, also based on the C14 datings, the Bayesian modeling. I would like to draw your attention on the high number of the radiocarbon dates. Here it is 65. It's normal. In the southern part, it is still normal, a little bit shorter, based on almost 70 radiocarbon dates. And here something happens which was amazing. We didn't understand how to interpret this. 80 radiocarbon dates were taken out of the almost 800 skeletons, and it turned out that these people just concentrated here for some reason at the northern part of the settlement for a couple of years. In another kind of modeling, we set out of the thought that from the other parts of the settlement, people must have moved to this northern part, but that wouldn't be enough to reach the 50 times intensity of the population. So we thought that some people must have moved in from other settlements, otherwise this is not to interpret. Actually, this is still a question mark because all the other trials, follow-up projects, detected very nice results, but they did not give any explanation for this sudden aggregation. For the decline, we have some clues. One is what Kitty found during her PhD work, and this was actually a very rich burial with rich grave goods, which is special because the person was probably unable to do any work due to his osteotuberculosis, which is clearly to be seen here. Given the fact that we already worked with the geneticist on the German project, we asked Anna, our geneticist, to examine the whole grave group where this burial was taken from. And it looked like most of the burials actually related to this person, to this deceased person, were infected with tuberculosis. Not visibly by the bones, but in a molecular basis it was easy to detect. So it must have been a kind of TB epidemics due to the more intensive cattle keeping, maybe due to the famines that made their immune system a bit lower. That might be one explanation for the decline. Another explanation is given by the zooarchaeologists. For the overwhelmingly cattle breeding population of Alsónyék went on for 10, 15, 20 years with the aggregation, and then suddenly the number of the hunted animals started to grow. What does this mean? Probably also famine. They needed to do something for finding food for themselves. So all these questions just initiated new projects. One of these were what we call the Greater Lengyel projects. We wanted to understand the aggregation. From where did they go? So we did a fantastic investigation of all these dots you can see even outside of Hungary. That was a large project with very nice results. It was published in Frankfurt in the RGK journal, except for one question, the aggregation. We found actually nothing about it. A second thing was about the Vincha culture. So what is the Vincha phenomenon? The Vincha starts at the mid-6th millennium BC and is the most typical Balkan culture down to Macedonia or maybe Albania. Interestingly, in Hungary, a small portion was detected of the Vincha culture, and even more interestingly, these Vincha people proved to be somewhat earlier than the eponymous site or the earliest Vincha sites whatsoever in the northern Balkans. How can this be explained? These are the typical Vincha sites, but what is apparent? That these Vincha pottery was found in what kind of houses? Typical LBK longhouses. So this excavation was called an LBK excavation. Of course, it was also a rescue excavation, so everything I'm saying we just found out later on at the post-excavation work in the course of that work. It looks like these are not imported wares, but genuine Vincha people lived in the LBK longhouse. How is this possible? There is actually only one explanation possible, and this is that the LBK longhouse, of which all the German archaeologists are so proud, and they were thinking that it was born in Germany and nowhere else, it was actually invented by the late Starchevo people in the edge of the northern Balkans and the southern Carpathian Basin, and they gave it further to their descendants, the Vincha people, but also to the LBK people. The formative LBK already has the genuine LBK longhouse. Otherwise, there is no plausible explanation. Of course, this needs to be further investigated, above all with the investigation of the Starchevo Watland daub and the houses, because the real proof would be if we could find a very nice LBK house in a late Starchevo orbit. For some reason, sometimes we see the post holes, but no genuine house has been excavated within the Starchevo orbit. However, the burned daub also talks. So I wrote a paper titled Burn Daub Talking that may be a little bit poetic, but I think it covers the essence. I thought that if, in case I can measure a couple of 100 kilograms of the burnt daub, nobody should tell me that the Starchevo people lived in pit houses. They must have lived in houses with upright walls and gable roofs. And then we started to measure, and also with structure from motion measurement with Hajo Höller Brockmann. That was a project with him. We figured out that alone from Starchevo, there were more than 2 tons of burnt daub, all in secondary positions or covered with no real house floors. But I think this is diagnostic enough to think, especially with the structures about gable roofs and walls and sometimes doors or windows or who knows what, but real structures of upright walls. We can say that it is only a question of time, and in a few years it will be really proven that the Starchevo people, the first farmers, didn't live in pit houses, but they invented the LBK longhouses, and this is the birth of it. It's bad news for the German archaeology. I'm really very sorry, but so far this is the toughest fact we could figure out. Just briefly, a couple of other side effects, so to say. We had conferences with this picture. It was posted on Facebook saying a very happy pod of professors, because we could investigate the potsherds. And also lots and lots of lectures were given across Europe. And there was also an outcome when the whole Bayesian methodology was attacked by a German archaeologist called Hans-Christoph Strien. And he said that this is no good. Actually, the reason was that it didn't fit with his hypothesis, and so therefore he wrote a piece like that. And we came together in Alasdair's house in the Black Mountains for a couple of days, and we put together all the arguments against it, and that was a very fun event, as you can see on the picture. Another side effect is bound to cattle and bound to clay. The whole southeastern orbit was using clay. Clay for the houses, clay for the extraction pit, for potsherds. Can you imagine that an early Neolithic garbage pit contained 60,000 potsherds? Just one pit. And the whole settlement consists of hundreds and hundreds of pits. So we can say that there was a clay orbit. I found this actually rather big clay object in the Sárköz. And the SZTE investigation showed that it was fired 3 times independently. So first the very rough core, then the second one, and the horns and the slip were put by the third event of the firing. And very interestingly, it has horns, which is normally a symbol for the male procreative power whatsoever. But as you can see, the vulva relief on the only surface where it was possible to be put in this minimalistic feature. And also, if you consider the many, many southeastern parallels of this structure, something emerging from a podest or from an altarpiece, they're all women. So the truth is that cows also have horns. They are normally sewn off to protect each other in the shed, but this doesn't exclude it. Another very interesting example for the cattle breeding melting together with the Southeast European tradition of depicting female figurines emerging out of a podest, but this time it is a cow. Just to make you a bit familiar of the complicated relations of clay, beginning from landscape and everything putting together from cattle until the monumental clay figurines. This is that was typical for the Southeast European early Neolithic, and this is that fades away and changes completely. Just one number. The whole LBK has 200 and something figural depictions from Transdanubia to the Netherlands and to the Krakow region, or even further. Whereas only at Alsónyék we have hundreds, just from one side. So it's fading away, the clayscapes changes, what you can call timberscapes or more wood or more stone, a completely other word. And this word is formulating, if you can remember the first slide, on that very small slot, which is on the one hand a marginal zone, and the other hand the birth of a new core area, the LBK. Just shortly about one publication, also with the German Archaeological Institute. It came out in 2020 about the environmental history of the Sárköz region, not just Alsónyék, but also the vicinity. This one is coming up in a couple of weeks, I hope, so early next year, which is the bioarchaeology of the whole 1,500 or 400 years of the history of the Sárköz. It is in press. This is also ready and steady, containing a Ph.D. work and also an MA work by Luke Jenkins, who was so much fascinated about Alsónyék that he decided to do his work for Cambridge with Mark van der Linden, but about the grinding stones of Alsónyék. So this will be hopefully coming out later next year or in 25, depending on pecunia, so to say, not just time. And here are some of the publications. And this is the plan, the cover of the bioarchaeological publication. More to come. So we have 4 or 5 more volumes in the pipeline, and if that can be fulfilled, then we can say that this terribly unfortunate fate that among that this excavation was born ends up in quite good results. Just about the projects and proceedings, including the 5-year support program and also the long typochronological work by István Zalaigál. 5 PhD dissertations were concentrating on this, 2 MA theses. These people were hired by our 5-year supporting program. So far, we have 4 books and a lot of studies, mostly in English, some of them in German and a few in Hungarian. And of course, we have our plans. I just drafted to you, so it won't be boring in the coming years. And finally, I would like to show you, after hopefully showing something about the 6th and 5th millennium network, to be parallel as a phenomenon, our network that developed during the project's evolving. As you can see here, the non-invasive prospection went together with the architecture and the burials with paleopathology, but then as it happens, we started to cross-check different programs with each other, and it proved to be very fruitful because everybody could show or ask something that was meaningful for the other expert group. And of course, later on, it just proliferated, and everybody wanted to ask from the others lots and lots of new research questions, until it ended up with a situation where actually we wouldn't be needed anymore because they communicated with each other, of course, not within our back, but they put their questions to everybody else. So what is it if this is not a network? And I think this is a very good example for setting out from a desperate situation and then inviting, without any questions or without any conditions, everybody who wanted to deliver something about the Alsónyék or the Sárköz proceedings. Okay, welcome. What can you do? What questions do you have? How can you contribute? And it ended up with this network. I'm really pleased for that, and it turns out that the Shanghai Archaeology Forum was also pleased on hearing that, because in the year 2017, it was awarded as one of the best field projects of the world. So far, so good. I'm going to finish now with a summary that this was a hopeless small project with a small research project, and then it ended up as a multidisciplinary cooperation, or we can say a transdisciplinary cooperation that evolves then to a real scientific network for a best possible interpretation. I'm not reading out, you can see it yourself, because I mentioned that a couple of times during my talk, how many kinds of investigations and cross-checking with other kinds helped interpreting this site, helped a better understanding of how first farmers ended up in this marginal zone and how they evolved to something new, which is the LBK, that determined then the next 2,000 years in the European archaeology. And finally, this is the essence of what I would like to say. Anytime anybody wants to tell you that this is unimportant, this is only a rescue excavation, this is just a handful of shares, just don't believe them, because you can never know. Maybe something very interesting grows out of this. And with that said, thank you for your attention.